We are the Morning Hustle.
It's the Morning Hustle. L'Oreal and Kyle Santillan, Alton Walker is here. And listen, man, there's been a lot of conversation about some of the things that have happened. Actually, this one huge event that took place in Chicago went viral. We all saw the mother with her children walking home from school and a group of children attacking, beating, and it was just ridiculous. We all saw what happened in the video. But we wanted to reach out to Chicago and see if we could find out if there's any answers, solutions, and what the conversation is now. So on the phone, representing the Teachers Union, the Chicago Teachers Union, and Executive Vice President of the Illinois Federation of Teachers, we have Miss Stacy Davis-Gates on the line.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Oh, listen to that. Thank you for having me.
We appreciate you being here, man. First and foremost, I personally hate, because Chicago is still my home, when we get such a bad light on a city from attacks like this. Like, what kind of things are y'all dealing with in the aftermath?
Well, look, let me also qualify myself. I'm a high school history teacher. I've taught in the North Lawndale, Inglewood, and Hum Park neighborhoods as a high school history teacher. So I am no stranger to the type of dysfunction that the world was able to see through that video. And what you saw landing in that video was a system of dysfunction coming to bear. And what's happening now is that people are wrapping their arms around the family, as they should. The support that mother and those young people should have gotten already. It's deplorable the amount of times that their needs were ignored, that reports went unanswered about the level of abuse and bullying that those young people were experiencing. And after talking to our members yesterday, what we found is that school is going to need a lot of support. And so that's where we are stepping in right now and offering a host of demands. We need after school programming there. After the Boys and Girls Club pulled out, kids don't have that. There are no crossing guards, safe passage workers for after school. So dealing with some of the things that can provide some immediate relief and accountability, but also the fact that you have a group of kids, one that's been victimized. We're going to have to figure out how to give him some traumatic services.
Right.
Absolutely.
And the young people who perpetrated that violence, you got to catch them right now, because if you don't, there's a whole system waiting for them.
Right. Because we even are seeing the backlash is coming to those kids, and you're seeing some of the parents. They're looking like we understand now why their kids are acting how they are, because they're the ones going off on people in the comments. And some of these kids don't even really look like they're sorry. They're kind of laughing in their apology videos. But to look at it, to see a lot of kids going through this bullying, it seems like we got to roll our sleeves up, and we got a lot of work ahead of us.
Well, listen, here's the thing. I'm also a mother of three. I have a 16, a 14-year-old, and an almost 12-year-old. The hardest thing that I've done in my life is be their mother. Like, it doesn't come with a manual. It's very difficult, especially in the hyper-concentrated social media world in which they exist. And so one of the things that I have been in close contact with some of the parent groups in the city is that they want to host a summit. They want to bring parents in and want to first make clear the resources that are already available, but then they also want to create the capacity to create more infrastructure, institution, resources, and relationships with young parents that need it. Like, look, I'm married. I have my in-laws. I have my family. And Lord have mercy, it takes a lot. So I don't chastise that. And I recognize when there is system failure and people have to rally around people to help them.
Can I ask you, because you mentioned earlier about her putting warnings out there and addressing certain issues that were not responded to, you know what I mean? And this is not a new thing. She even said to the news that she was kind of waiting on a side street. They were kind of trying to get away from the crowd just to get her kids home from school. What were some of the other reports that she was reporting? I'm assuming it was bullying, but what were some of the other reports that she was reporting to the school and other people that were not being addressed?
teachers were reporting it. It wasn't just the mom, right? The family that's been victimized, those young people are in classrooms with teachers, and those teachers have made multiple reports for support. This is also, and let me also back up a little bit and situate this in context. This neighborhood is half black, half Latinx. Trump sent his ICE troops to that neighborhood, and they've been terrorizing the people in that neighborhood. You have all sorts of trauma happening there. High poverty rates, high unemployment rates, a lack of fresh groceries in the neighborhood. Like, I could keep checking off the list of things that are not there, including a school community that needs more. Recently, we've been bargaining and winning sustainable community schools in Chicago. And we want Bright Elementary School to become one of those. What does that mean? It means that they get more resources, and not just the individuals who sit in the seats in the classroom, but their moms, their dads, their extended family members. Many of our sustainable community schools in the city right now are offering restorative justice opportunities, mental health supports, and it also opens the school up for parents to have a greater voice in how policies are made and how needs are addressed.
So you mentioned ICE. We know that Donald Trump was responsible for sending them into Chicago. He also mentioned shutting down the Board of Education at some point in time. How would that affect us?
It's already affecting us in Chicago. So he is withholding right now, Donald Trump, about $10 million from the Chicago public schools because we fought for and won a Black Student Success Program, which is repertory support and resources for Black students in the system. You know, that's a DEI program. So he's withholding that money. He's also just this week, by executive order, started to take the services out of the Department of Education. So special education services where Black boys are overly represented, I don't care in what, county, city, or state, they're overly represented in special education classes. That entire agency within that department has been moved to Health and Human Services. The fear is that those students will be deprioritized along with the resources and supports that they receive. Many places don't even enforce the law in which they're supposed to. So we're afraid that the young people who need the services and the supports won't be receiving it. And on top of that, the Medicaid cuts that were in his big, beautiful bill, that hurts the mental health services that we are able to provide in the city as well. The state of Illinois passed a law last year that allows mental health days for our young people. So they get 5, no questions required. And they get a screening at school so they can be directed to support. But you can't pay for it if you don't get those Medicaid reimbursements.
Yeah.
Well, some people are saying and bringing up the whole CPS travel scandal. They're saying that because the CPS Inspector General said, 23 million in travel spending was abused over 6 years, that, that's part of the problem, is the reason why they're cutting funding. What do you have to say about that?
Well, I don't think the two are connected. And I will say it's aberrant behavior. Look, you don't get a situation at that elementary school that severe with a system that works well. So the system is crying for intervention. We were just able to get an elected school board in Chicago. For many years, you had people who were not accountable to the communities who were making decisions for schools. So we are, working with years, maybe even generations of dysfunction in that space. So we're trying to get that on the right side. Right. But I'll be perfectly honest with you, that's indefensible. I have sports coaches who are part of our union that are having a difficult time getting buses for after school competitions. And you have people going to Hawaii with their spouses. You can't defend that either.
Right.
That is also dysfunctional behavior.
Right. Again, we're on the line right now with Miss Stacy Davis Gates, the president of Chicago Teachers Union. You were just addressing some of the investigations with the spending that was going on with some of the people in the Chicago Teachers Union. It seems like, you know what I mean? There's always something going on in Chicago public school systems. Every year, there's some sort of challenge that you guys are dealing with. Ideally, like, how do we get back to a place where people have trust in the school system and trust in the job that you guys are trying to do when we're still battling all these obstacles?
It's a great question. I think that it's multifaceted. The Chicago Public Schools has never received the type of funding that it deserves or is required. The state of Illinois owes the Chicago Public Schools $2 billion. There is a $2 billion bill, yes, that they're in arrears. $2 billion also goes a long way in helping to create resource school communities that have social workers, libraries, and after-school programs, none of which that school has, by the way. Okay, so that's step one. You got to fund it. Step two is that we have to create spaces to bring in more Black teachers into our school community. They don't even have 5 Black teachers in that school community. That's a problem. We have to figure out how to cultivate a leadership pipeline that brings Black teachers into spaces like that to help with the cultural competencies and the connections in the relationship. 3, we have to be really serious about leadership, right? I represent the teachers, the paraprofessionals, the clinicians, the nurses that are in the schools. You know, you have principals, you have network chiefs, and you have CEOs of public schools. We have to get leadership that reflect the needs of the community. You can't continue to have leadership that can't hear parents, that do not respond to bullying and violence. So all of those things are necessary to make it work. And finally, you got to build community. All of those people who showed up at the school the day after, how are we organizing them to love on that school community all year long?
Right.
How are we organizing them to create committee, to bring resources, to advocate for the state to pay their bill? How are we bringing them in to coach the after school sports? You have to do all of the things.
And I noticed that teachers, they get a lot of flack, but we know that they are actually the heroes. They are the ones that are working for minimal money, that are putting sometimes their own life on the line to protect another student or another teacher. What do you have to say about the people that are like coming directly for the teachers?
Not a lot, actually, because everyone who's doing anything in this world right now had a teacher. So how can you be mad at people who enable this society to run in a particular way? The teachers ring the bell first. The teachers at that school have been canaries in the coal mine for a very long time. The paperwork that I saw yesterday tells me that there is a leadership dysfunction, that there is a resource dysfunction, and that there is a lack of community being cultivated and built in that space for a variety of reasons. We have an opportunity in this moment, and people seem to be making the right decisions. The mayor made sure that the mom and the family got housing that did not put them in more danger. People are hosting meetings to create the capacity to begin to give that school what it needs. But that school is one of many schools in this city. And so you're going to have a complete plan. And it should not take that level of violence to get leaders to pay attention to our needs.
That's right.
Facts. I know we're about to let you go. I just have one last question. And because you mentioned it earlier, you were talking about the stuff that the kids are dealing with and ICE coming into the neighborhoods and terrorizing them. And it's so interesting that you say that, because a lot of times when this happens and a video like this goes viral, the first thing you see in the comments is, that's why Trump sent the troops to Chicago. And I know in my heart, them troops are not there to deal with that kind of stuff. Can you speak to what it is that you see the troops doing and how, you know what I mean, you think it helps? Maybe you do think it helps, or it does not help the city of Chicago.
Look, so two things. First thing, adjacent to that neighborhood, a Black Hawk helicopter landed on top of an apartment building, 1:00 in the morning. These freaks went door to door, pulling people out of their apartment at 1:00 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
They had babies under 5, zip tied in lines, a black line and a Latinx line. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's traumatic and nuts. So, no, we don't want that. And we do need the federal government to make sure that people who are hungry get SNAP benefits. We do need them to fund the Department of Education and public education. The federal government has a responsibility to Chicago. No one is telling them not to bring the resources. We're saying leave the terrorism somewhere else, but bring the resources.
Mm-hmm, for sure. We appreciate you. Obviously, we'll be watching. The whole world is watching the aftermath of this situation, and we're always, hoping and wishing that things come to the proper solution. But thank you for the time, and if you could reach out to us, or if you need to reach out to us for anything and let us know what's going on, please do. Miss Stacy Davis Gates, president of the Chicago Teachers Union, on the line on the Morning Hustle. We appreciate you so much.
Same. Thank you all for allowing us to have some voice.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, talk to you soon.